What's up, you guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at our Excel budget. A lot of you have asked how I budget, what I use. And the big thing I like to always tell people is that really, as long as you're budgeting, that's the most important thing. Whether you're using Excel, you're using an app, you're using an envelope system, you're using just good old-fashioned paper and pencil, whatever it is that you're using, it's just important that you do it. I think that's so important, and so I like Excel. Some people aren't as huge of fans, but I'm just going to kind of go over my Excel spreadsheet, my Excel budget. It's broken down into 4 areas. I'll go over that, and if you have any questions or comments about my budget, I'd love for you to comment below. Hit that like button if you found value in this video. That definitely means a lot. And without any further ado, let's get into it. All right, so we're gonna just kind of go through this budget. You can see it says Gym Class Finance monthly budget at the top. We're gonna kind of highlight. I'm gonna do my best to just go through it and show you the 4 different sections. The first section is obviously, you see the sources of income. The next section is kind of just like a summary for me. It's my account balances. So basically, what you're about to see, the totals, that it kind of just goes up to this in a nice organized manner. So you can see each of my account balances. Obviously, this is just, this isn't real numbers. I just put numbers in there to kind of just simulate what it all looks like. So it's not actually my numbers. And then if you look, down here we have, I'm going to try and minimize out of that a little bit, and you'll see the expenses. Right here is where my expenses are put in, mainly in the white. These are my other accounts, like retirement type things in the different colors. I'll get into that in a little bit. And then if you look then at the bottom, I like to always kind of keep track of net worth. And so this is just like a little net worth calculator that everything kind of ties into. And then at the bottom you see that I have January, February, March, April, May, June, July, all through the 12 months. So rather than having to open up a brand new Excel spreadsheet, I just have to click on the little tab at the bottom to get to my next one. And if any of you are interested in this, I am willing to kind of pass it on to you, or I was thinking about putting it on Etsy if anyone was interested and seeing if I could make a little bit from it, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe someone's interested, or maybe you guys can let me know. But kind of just taking a look at the whole thing. We try to make it as organized as possible, not too big, not too all over the place as I'm zooming out. But I'm going to focus and zoom back in. If you look, we're going to focus on what I'm going to highlight, which is our sources of income. And the sources of income, as you'll see, the sources of income show the last month ending balance. So we're in January, so this was assuming like 2019. What money did we have, not including an IRA or 529? I try not to include the accounts that are more retirement or saving for college for our child. So, let's say, like I said, these are all made up numbers. So 9,400 is our last month balance. And then this is where my pay would go in. So whatever I'm paid, when it comes in, I throw it in there. And then it's an old thing, so my wife, when she worked, would throw it in here. Any of our side hustle income, we would put here. And then additional funds, so like interest on bank accounts, just random reasons why I received money, would all go into this category. And then just kind of the formula I have would just total it all up right here. Obviously we received 1,000 and 1,000 for the total of 2,000. When you add the 2,000 up with what we had as our last month balance, then it shows it down here. So that's just to show you the sources of income. If you move along, then I have the account balances. So this is going to show you how much I have in each of my accounts. It's just one small little area. You'll see the same totals down further. If I scroll down, right here, you're going to see those same totals. But up here, it just was nice and organized for me. I can see my health savings account, our 529, a brokerage account, another brokerage account, a checking account, reserve checking account, savings account, an account for my daughter, another house fund account outside of our banking. We have a Roth IRA set up for Carolina, my wife. Just a cash envelope. I like to keep some cash, and that's a little hard to keep track of, so that doesn't get updated all the time. But yard selling or whatever other reasons we might need to have cash around, I try to keep track of it there, and then another Roth IRA. You'll see that there's not all the accounts up there, so like my pension's not in there. You'll see it down below. A couple other things aren't kept up there, but those are kind of the main things that I just like to always keep in one place. The third area are the expenses, and if you're looking, you'll see the expenses. A lot of them in white. The white ones are in our checking account, so that's where the money that I am spending each month. I'm drawing a blank on what the word I'm looking for right now is, but that's the money that we are keeping track of each month, making our monthly payments. So these categories aren't perfect. You might use different categories. This is what works for us. And maybe you'll get some, add to your budgeting categories, or maybe you'd even suggest something for me that I haven't covered. I tried to cover it all, but obviously that's not always the case, which is why right here in the middle I have that miscellaneous fund that you can see. So anything that's not covered would go right in that miscellaneous. I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit just so you can see those expenses. In the red, you have the emergency or the God only knows fund. Obviously, I try to keep 3 to 6 months in that. Before that, you see the tithing and the random act of kindness or generosity fund. I believe in having both of those types of funds, and I can go into that a little more in another video, but those two are definitely important to me, which is why I kind of just separate them from the rest of the funds. If you're moving along, you'll see, like I said, the emergency fund. This was another account, and so it's our future house fund, which we're about to make the biggest purchase of our life. So that fund has helped us out a lot. This is our mortgage, taxes, and HOA. Now, we're not going to have an HOA anymore, but I'd like to keep all of that just in one fund each month so I know exactly what I'm going to have to owe for that month. Utilities, obviously electricity, all those types of fun things that you're making monthly payments on. Our out to eat fund is going to have to go down, especially if we're picking up a little bigger mortgage than where we were in our condo. Groceries fund, we separate those two because I just really, going out to eat is definitely a special treat, whereas groceries, we try to do our best. We do shop at Aldi. Highly recommend, not everything, but you could save a lot of money by going to Aldi. Personal care, so deodorant, laundry, cleaning supplies. Just wanted to add that so everyone kind of understand where that's coming from. Child care, if you have kids, you know that they're expensive. Car repair, payment, and insurance. Cars are expensive, so we just want to make the fund for that. We separated gas just because that's something that's going to happen consistently each month, whereas car repair, it's not always, but we want to have a little in that fund in case something happens. Medical and tax. I have an HSA, so I'm not necessarily going to be too concerned about the medical and tax, about keeping too much in there, but we have some side things that we do, and we want to make sure we have some money in that account when it comes tax time, that we have enough to make that payment. If we have to, usually we get a refund at tax time, but you never know. Miscellaneous, I just put it right in the middle because there's always things that come up. You never know. Phone and internet were one category. Clothes and shoes. We really do a lot of thrifting. We don't buy a whole lot of brand new stuff at times, but just like to keep that funded. Gifts get so expensive. I talk about how expensive that gets with families. Electronics. This is going to be we're in the next year. We're going to be in the market for a new cell phone, so that would be there. Eventually, a computer. Those are all things that we like to think about. Business account, Posh, Macari, side hustle. So we do at times make purchases, especially when we're doing reselling, and we want to make sure that we keep that account funded for those purchases. Fitness club, I kept it here. I don't necessarily am not using that, although my wife likes to do some spin classes, so we have that. Try to keep a little bit of money in there for that. Home improvement, this one's getting drained this month because we got a lot of home improvements that we're going to be doing. Fun stuff. Hair, nails, Carolina fun. Obviously she does more than just her hair and her nails, but that's just kind of a fun thing I put there. Sean, golf, fantasy, football, money, anything that I like to do extra. And then just something that we like to do as a family, I put in the other entertainment. So that kind of just wraps up the areas that are kept in our checking account. Before I go any further and go to the last two categories, there's some things I want to kind of focus on, or last category, not two categories. So each time you can see carried from last month. So as you go January, February, March, April, okay, you're going to see money that's going to carry over. Whatever's in this column over here is going to carry over to our next month's column. And that's just to keep it organized so you know how much you're bringing over, because at the end of the month you might have extra left over and then you don't have to fund it as much and you can save it or whatever you want to do with it. But I think it's so important to have that total left in the budget category, and then it just goes into your next month without you having to actually physically add it in. So you have your money from last month, then you have your budgeted per month. So this is what you're putting in for that month. So let's say I have 100, looks like I have 100 from last month for tithing, and I want to give 10% of whatever I'm earning that month. So I'm going to be making sure that let's say just for fun, I'm going to make $1,000 that month. Then I want to put $100 budgeted, which then gives me my $200 right here. And let's say, some people like to do their giving all at once. So when I give all at once, write that check out or whatever it is in this money spent category, I would then edit it and I would make sure that I put in the $200 that need to go in there for the giving. I'm not going to make those changes right now, but I just kind of want you to see that's how it works, and then it would make this 0. All right, because you can see the formula up here at the top of how it's going to subtract my budgeted from the money that is spent. Kind of moving down, and I know there's a lot, so I do that with every category, wherever it is. Now, I look at my credit card bill. Yes, I use credit cards. I pay them off right away. But I look at my credit card bill, and I just go right through and just make the deductions, put it in the spent month category here, right down wherever it fit in. And that does seem like a little bit of a long process, but for me, it just makes sense. It takes me 10 minutes. I look at it 2 to 4 times a month, and just kind of helps me to know where my money's going, every dollar. And I like this because I like to be able to see it, and this helps me a lot. So then I'm just going to kind of go at the last part of this category, this third category, cash envelope. Obviously, it's the same thing. Whether I take money out or whatever it might be, I want to see how much cash we have and make sure that I'm adding it here and subtracting it here to give me my end of month totals. Our vacation and school fund are both in one account. This is an extra part of our savings account area. And so school, not necessarily something I use as much anymore, but I used to want to make sure that I kept that funded, and that's all in one account. Brokerage, this is where we were saving, also saving money for a house, and same thing. I just kind of keep track of it, whatever it's showing in my account. I just kind of make the adjustments in here in the spreadsheet. We have another brokerage account that we're saving towards for a car. The savings for Caroline, my daughter, she has her own savings account, so I just kind of can keep track of it there for her. Whenever she gets older, she'll have some money to buy a car or whatever it might be. A health savings account, this is something that through my work, I keep track of it. Money comes out of my paycheck and goes and funds that, so I keep track of it in here as well. On a Roth IRA, same thing. I'll just keep an eye on that maybe once a month, not even that, and update that. The PA 529, another account for my daughter's education, goes in there, and Carolina's Roth IRA as well. We keep track and make sure that we're keeping up with the expenses in it there. And then I'm just going to kind of show you the ending balance, not including IRAs and 529s, because I want to know the money that I'm working with, not necessarily what's part of our retirement or our savings for college. So I like to keep those totals all right here. So how much came in the previous month, the total budgeted for that month, so how much did we fund it, with the paychecks, knowing what the paychecks we got. And you can do this as your paycheck comes in. If you know in advance what it's going to be for the month, then do that. Total spent per month, right there. So anytime I'm making expenses, it's going to subtract whatever number I'm putting in and total it down here. And at the end, it's going to give me my balance. Then right here, you can see there's my total, including IRAs and 529s. So I know this is a lot, and hopefully I'm not boring you. I love this stuff, and I'd love to hear, like I said, I'd love to hear more about what you think maybe I could add or whatever it might be, if anything was helpful to you. So now we're going to look at the last and final piece of what I do with our Excel budget, and that's going to be our net worth, tracking the net worth. And I really do think it's important to track your net worth, not every single minute be thinking about it. It's not really anything that's you should be worrying about or anything like that. But I think it's important because in your mind you might want to start thinking about what you want that number to be. What do you want? What assets do you want when you're ready to retire? Do you want a paid off home whenever you're retired? I know I do. And so these are all things that you should be thinking about. Our net worth is definitely going to be going down a lot here because of buying a house and having a much larger mortgage. And so that's fine. We're going to work hard to see what we can do, to see if we can get that debt down a little bit. But let's just kind of take a look at it. So basically what's happening is I'm just pulling down that number from whatever is in our savings, okay? And it shows you that it's checking savings, all of our accounts, and it's going to put it right here. It just draws it right down. I think it comes from E50. And then you take a look at the Roth IRAs that we have, okay? So that's going to be accounted for. The Caroline 529 is going to be accounted for in the net worth because that's all money that we, equities that we currently have in order to eventually use on her education. A pension, we have money in the pension that we've been contributing to. Cars, how much value? Now this is something that some people do not keep track of. I do think it's important because if I was ever in a pinch and I needed to get money, I could sell a car and I want to know what the value of the car is. So I do include it. I know some people do not include that, but I do, and it's up to your own preference. Household items, that's just a rough estimate. Like I said, these are just false numbers. I just put them in here. But how much are items in your house? Because like I said, if you needed the cash, how much would it be worth to you, if you needed to go that route? And then your house equity. So this is just to explain this. This is our condo. This is just made up numbers. These aren't actual numbers. But say the house, we bought it for $125,000. We've paid off, let's say, $65,000 of it. So that's how much equity we have in the house. So that goes into your net worth. So adding all that up, it would give you $177,000 as your assets, and then you subtract your assets from your liabilities. So we don't have any other debt except for a mortgage. Now, this is an actual number. We were paying a home equity on our condo for 3.43%. The new mortgage that we got is actually a little bit lower, so I'm pretty happy about that. I'll talk more about that in another video. But so you subtract what you owe. So 65 plus 60 is where that 60 comes from, is what we still would have owed if we still owned the condo on it. Obviously just a figurative number. And so that's your liabilities. That equals 60,000. So you take your 177,000 minus your 60,000, which then would give you your net worth of 117.4, which you see on the screen. So that's just kind of how it all works, and it all has formulas in it. And if I zoom out of it a little bit, you can kind of just see there it all is together. I'll slowly go up so you can look at it one more time. To me, this makes sense. There's people that like to do it a little differently, but for me, this makes sense to me. So please let me know if there's anything confusing about it. How can I explain it better? Am I missing something? I'd love to hear what you'd have to say about this budget, and if you are interested, you can reach out to me. I would even be willing to help you make one if that's something you're interested in keeping track of your expenses. That is all I have. I really appreciate it. I hope I didn't get too long-winded going over this Excel budget. Once again, smash that like button. I would really appreciate it. Help me out. Pass this on to anyone who's talking about a budget or interested in learning more about it. It really can be fun. I know people think it's boring. I think budgeting actually is fun. Maybe I'm just weird, and if that's the case, that's the case. But remember, it's that simple.